It's official. Our version of the simulation is beyond wild. President Trump just nuked the stock market. Multiple economies are now most likely going to fall into a recession. And as you can imagine, we have a lot to talk about. With respect to the trade war that we now find ourselves in, I'll be breaking down what happened on Friday, what happened over the weekend, and what to be paying attention to in the upcoming week. Most importantly, I want to give you some actual facts and figures. Right now, it doesn't take much to scroll on the internet and realize everyone's popping off one way or another. It's obviously becoming very politically divisive, so I'm not going to tell you how to feel, who's right, who's wrong, but I do want to give you some actual numbers and sources that you can double check yourself to make you feel a little bit more comfortable in this time of craziness. Now, make sure you stay till the end of the video because I'm going to be sharing my thoughts of what I'll be doing with my personal trading portfolio and how I'm going to manage, obviously, this very hectic, chaotic time. If you enjoy these types of daily breakdowns and updates, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, turn on those notifications. And with that being said, let's rock. Now, to get you, my fellow degenerates, properly prepared for the upcoming fun-filled week in the world's largest casino, I need to start at how we concluded last week, because that's really where the story started to pick up. Dow closes 300 points lower on Friday as the White House says tariffs will start Saturday. That word tariffs is exactly what the bull camp didn't want to hear because it means we are moving forward with the trade war. But if you happen to be in the bear camp, obviously, a quick round of applause to all of you. Very quickly, here's a peek at the S&P 500 heat map. As you can see, the overall market barometer was a bit more red than green, but that really doesn't tell you the interesting story. We were actually looking pretty bullish up until about 1 p.m., and that's when the SPY and the NASDAQ and the Russell, and even at that point, a lot of crypto started to puke. In fact, check out crypto as I'm filming this in real time. It is absolutely a bloodbath, nothing but a sea of red. So let's start at that 1 p.m. mark. This is where the bull camp was actually looking really good. Myself included, I'll admit it, we were all focusing on a new all-time high heading into that lunchtime hour, really heading into the weekend, and it was all because of a report from Reuters. Trump set to launch Canada-Mexico tariffs on March 1st with exemptions, according to sources. So before this, the assumption was February. That's what we were all told. Feb 1st, this got reported. It was around noon. I know this is saying 1:10, but it came out around noon and we were like, oh, all pretty good. Literally, most of us were looking at new all-time highs. That truly felt like the smart trade. But then later in the afternoon, around 1:15, right when the market started to puke, that's actually when the White House press secretary said, I don't know who your sources are. I don't know where you're getting that information, but it is a bunch of baloney. In fact, not only did the SPY completely sell off, look how bad it got in post-market trading. Right here, the SPY went from 609 down to close around 602, down 1%, and then the market, fortunately, they turned it off, closed at 8 p.m., dove another couple bucks down to $5.99. Absolutely horrible. And that's what we saw in the NASDAQ. That's what we saw in the small cap sector. And as I'm filming this, Bitcoin has been absolutely put through the blender. Now, I don't know how this is legal, but Reuters, I had to actually go to my own screenshot because they updated the article hours later saying, Trump, nothing Canada, Mexico, or China can do to delay Feb 1st tariffs. No apology for saying, hey, our sources were completely wrong here and we just put out something that cost really the overall market and economy billions, if not trillions of dollars. Oops, our bad. They just kind of updated it later and obviously did not say sorry or anything along those lines. So that was the overall craziness on Friday to conclude not only the week, but the month and get us into the weekend that I think many of us thought was going to be a little bit more relaxing and fun as we were counting our attendees, but it went the completely opposite way. Trump slaps tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China. This all came out on Saturday, February the 1st. Today, I've implemented a 25% tariff on imports from Mexico and Canada, 10% on Canadian energy, and a 10% additional tariff on China. This was done through the IEEPA because of the major threat of illegal aliens, deadly drugs killing our citizens, including fentanyl. We need to protect Americans, and it is my duty as president to ensure the safety of all. I made a promise on my campaign to stop the flood of illegal aliens and drugs from pouring across our borders reporters, and Americans overwhelmingly voted in favor. Basically, President Trump kept to his word and said, hey, Feb 1st is the deadline, fix things up or you're going to get hit with the tariff. They didn't do it. He hit him with the tariff. And then this is what prompted what a lot of people rightfully assumed was going to happen. It started a good old-fashioned trade war. It doesn't have to be this way. Canada, Mexico, and China and the EU respond to Trump's tariffs. Quick sidebar, EU has not been hit with tariffs yet, but he was in, I guess, various speeches and just analysts and reporters and everything in between. When he was asked, he's like, yeah, no, the EU is going to be on my list as well. So that's why they're piping in here a little bit right now. But at this moment in time that I'm filming it, Canada, Mexico, and China, yes, were officially hit with tariffs. In the world of craziness, this is all pretty high. It's pretty high in the craziness ranking, if you will. But then I woke up this morning and it got turned up a couple notches. Trump calls again for Canada to become the 51st state. Now, to offer a bit more context, we pay hundreds of billions of dollars to subsidize Canada. Why? There is no reason. We don't need anything they have. We have unlimited energy, should make our own cars, and have more lumber than we can ever use. Without this massive subsidy, Canada ceases to exist as a viable country. Harsh but true. Therefore, Canada should become our cherished 51st state. Much lower taxes and far better military protection for the people of Canada, and no tariffs. These are all just my personal opinions now. Obviously, all this tariff talk and what's going on with lumber and energy and cars and fentanyl, I think that's all very real. But this whole 51st state thing, I think that's more when we're getting into the comedian mode of Donald Trump versus like really, truly actionable political plans. But once again, those are just my own thoughts. Who knows right now? As I said at the start of this video, this particular version of the simulation is completely off the grid. I've said this before, and I'm probably going to have to say it a million more times, but right now, especially if you're an active trader, it doesn't matter if it's Forex, crypto, option stocks, or anything in between, you have to have on your notifications for the president, because what he says instantaneously can cause huge swings in the market. And even again this morning, Sunday, if you're looking at the Forex market, things are going haywire because of what he's putting out into the world. So on the screen now, feel free to check it out. But if anything, go over to X, go over to True Social, put on your notification for him, because his words clearly carry a lot of influence. Obviously, he's the president. And right now we're in this mode of extreme heightened volatility. And now, finally, we can get into the nitty-gritty of what the numbers are, what they aren't, and maybe what this means for our portfolios. So when this was all announced, as we kind of expected, these countries are going to hit back. Breaking: Mexico has announced it will join Canada in imposing retaliatory tariffs on the US, specifically targeting red states. China says it will take retaliatory measures against US President Trump's new tariffs. So they're not going down without a fight. But that then begs the question, is this a fair fight? Is it smart for them to retaliate or just to bend the knee to President Trump? Canada and Mexico want America to feel the pain of tariffs as well. Late Saturday, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said his country would impose 25% tariffs on more than $105 billion of U.S. goods. A first wave would hit $20 billion of imports from the U.S., including alcohol, coffee, clothing and shoes, furniture, and household appliances. A second wave on another $85 billion of goods would include tariffs on cars and trucks, agricultural products, steel and aluminum, and aerospace products. He continued by saying that he spoke with the Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum and that the two leaders agreed to work together to deal with Trump's actions. Sheinbaum said Mexico's response will include tariff and non-tariff measures, which aides said would be outlined soon. If you're watching this, I'm kind of assuming you've already seen a lot of the clips of the Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau popping off, going to the point of telling Canadians to not vacation in the US, but it did lead to some other funny moments. Shout out to Joseph Carlson. I don't ever think I've seen Canada this angry. In some cases, they're even using impolite language. Obviously just a joke, but pretty freaking hilarious. So now let's talk about the golden question. How big of a deal is this, and what is it going to do for you, for me, and for everyone in between? Well, it's a pretty big deal, and this is the TLDR. In the short term, I think it's going to cause the US stock market, crypto market, Forex, all that stuff to go down. I do believe that the dips are to be bought. I think we're going to recover very strongly, but short term, obviously the bears are now in control. And with respect to China, but more so Canada and Mexico, I think what this is going to do to their economy is far, far worse. So I think we're both going to take a hit, except I think the US will be able to recover from the hit, while these other countries are going to have a much tougher time, especially the longer that they hold on. So that's the TLDR, and this is how I came up with that reasoning. Over 80% of Mexico's exports and 75% of Canada's exports go to the US. That's called leverage. In fact, it is pretty much the definition of leverage. Now, from the US side, 1.3 trillion with a T of goods are going to be affected, about 5% of US GDP. Average tariffs will triple from 3% to 10%, creating a supply shock. This could reduce US GDP growth by 1.2%. Last quarter, we came in at 2.3 and add 0.7% to core PCE, which is an inflation reading. And obviously, we're already too high. We're closer to 3 where we should be at 2. So this is why I believe in the short term, the US market is clearly going to take a hit, because this is a multi-billion, if not trillion-dollar issue. But it's a far bigger issue for those other countries. America tariffs on Canada are equal to 10%, 10% of Canada's GDP. Canada's retaliation on the US are equal to 0.5% of America's GDP. So even though we're talking in the world of millions and billions and trillions, I think it can kind of be lost of the true size. So sometimes it's better to go into percentages. So it's 0.5% for the US, while 10% for Canada's GDP. At that size, it is a no bueno situation. Since exports to the US account for around 20% of their GDP, today's tariffs could plunge both the Canadian and Mexican economies into recession later this year. And if anything, it's going to accelerate. This is according to Trump. If Canada retaliates to our 25% tariffs, we will double the tariffs. Trump's executive order on tariffs includes a clause that will allow the US to raise the tariffs if Mexico or Canada retaliates. The White House said that the duties would remain in place until Mexico, Canada, and China stop fentanyl smuggling and illegal immigration. The Mexican drug trafficking organizations have an intolerable alliance with the government of Mexico, according to the White House. So this all adds up to a situation where it's going to exponentially snowball, clearly in a very, very negative direction. And to the surprise of absolutely no one, we all know it. The coming weeks will be difficult for Canadians, according to the Prime Minister, but we will not back down. The narrator, you will back down. I mean, gosh, we're even at the point that Trump knows it. Trump says the pain from tariffs will be worth the price. So we're very evidently in a situation where it's not really mutually assured destruction, but it's mutually assured pain. And it just so happens that the size of the US economy is much bigger. So if it's like really a siege war, we could withstand it longer. But anyway, we're still all gonna have pain. Everyone's gonna have pain, but because of that, I do believe that this is gonna be short-lived, and Goldman Sachs agrees. They believe the US tariffs on Mexico and Canada will be short-lived, once again, because no one wants this unnecessary pain. To put that another way, I believe right now, all of these related markets are going to take a clear hit. I do believe in the short term, the bears are in control, and there's a good chance that markets could lose double-digit numbers. I think we have to be prepared for that once again in the short term. But if you look at how these tariffs have played out, even recently with Trump in 2018, the dip was to be bought. So in the short term, I'm expecting pain, but in the medium term, I am really truly going to be looking for that dip buy opportunity. The longer this is going to go on, it's going to more severely impact both Canada and Mexico, which is why I think, as I've said in this video multiple times now, that I think they're going to basically wave the white flag and bend the knee to Trump, just because we can endure this for longer. If you want more stats, facts, and figures related to this situation, if you want more stats, facts, and figures related to this overall trade war, I highly recommend checking out this thread from the Kobayashi letter. I'm most likely pronouncing that wrong. In fact, I definitely am. But anyway, I'll make sure it's pinned in the description of this video so you can read someone else's opinion on this subject. I do also want to remind you that this upcoming week in the world's largest casino, we have a lot of major macroeconomic reports. We have some ISM numbers, we have the JOLTS job openings, we have non-farm employment change, we're going to get the initial jobless claims, and then on Friday, since it's the first Friday of a new month, we're going to be getting the unemployment report, which means we're just putting gasoline onto this fire that's been cooking all weekend. I hate ending videos on a negative note, so I do want to show you something a little bit positive. From a seasonal perspective over the past 5 years, yes, the month of February does actually favor the bears, But if you look at the first week of February, it actually strongly favors the bulls. So overall month, generally going in the favor of the bears, but the first week, the week that we're about to get into, it does favor the bulls. So that's one positive thing. And if you want to, don't forget to sign up for the newsletter. It is 100% free in the description of the video. It'll come to your email inbox every single weekend. I break down the previous week, set you up for the upcoming week, all the earnings. I highlight the ones you're really going to probably care about. I give you all those macroeconomic events, and then I give you the seasonality for each individual day. So Monday, nicely bullish. Tuesday, pretty nicely bullish. You have Wednesday, a little bit more bearish, but then you have Thursday and also Friday slightly favoring the bulls. So the first week to kick off this new month does favor the bulls. That's pretty much what I have for you. I know it's quite a bit to digest, so if you have any thoughts, comments, or concerns of your own, let me know in a comment below. I do read all of them. I appreciate your time. I appreciate all the good vibes. I'll catch you in the next one. And as always, good luck in the upcoming week in the world's largest casino. I hope you are printing those tendies.